Hi, I'm Beck and welcome to a reading vlog. I've just got back from work. I thought that I would start to chronicle my reading for during the week because I'm doing 2 reading challenges at the moment. One of them is the April month-long challenge of the Magical Readathon, where you choose a fake career. So I've got 4 books to read for that. And then in addition to that, I want to read my entire TBR pile by the end of July, which I did in a separate video. So if you're interested in any of my TBR stuff or anything I talk about, I'll link videos in the description. But that leads me into talking about my current reads. So one of them is Foundry Side, which I am roughly 180 pages into, I think. And this one is a sci-fi fantasy blend about a thief who tries to steal something from a warehouse, and then in the hullabaloo she gets tailed back to almost where her safe house is, and from that point on she is hunted, and one of the guys who's hunting her is almost like a rogue policeman. He's trying to set up a police force in this city, but everything is contesting him and he's really struggling to set up this police force. And then Sanshia, our protagonist, is like early 20s, I think, and a thief trying to survive in this hierarchical world. So I'm enjoying it so far. I just find that Robert Jackson Bennett's work is long in chapter and a lot of description, which is great when I've got the energy for it, but after work, especially on a day like today where it is so gloomy and rainy outside, I feel like I just don't have the mental energy to pick this up. Once I pick it up, I'm fine, but that leads me into going, actually, maybe a longer, slower read is not right for a readathon. So then I picked up Crucible of Chaos by Sebastian de Castell, thinking, this guy is one of my favorite authors. I love the Greatcoats, I love the Spellslinger series. I'm gonna love this. And I don't love this. I'm 60 pages into it and already the main character is so annoying to me that I want to poke my own eyes out. His name is Estevar and he is a traveling greatcoat. And if you haven't read the Greatcoats quartet, then going into this book is direct spoilers. It is a continuation of the series in general. And Estevar opens this book with a grievous sword wound, and he's going to this island where religion and magic have intertwined and caused chaos and bad things for the islanders. And he's going there as a traveling magistrate to try and get to the bottom of this and figure it out. He's also got a vested interest in magic, whereas Falkio in the Greatcoat series hated magic. And I thought, oh, I would love to see more magic in this series by this author. But the writing style in this book, while it is great in the sense that it's got those tones of the Greatcoats and the, you know, writing style that I fell in love with, this series with this character at its center is driving me nuts. I said to a friend, I've gone, no wonder Estevar starts this book out with a grievous injury, because I personally want to stab him myself. He's that annoying. So hopefully his character growth takes off, because at the moment it's really slow going. And I picked this up instead of Foundry Side because I thought, this is a 300-page fantasy book, it will be quick. Now I'm like, why was I so stupid? Why did I pick this up when I could have made more mileage in this one instead? But now that I've started, apparently I need to continue. So I'm going to try more, and then if I don't like it, I'll put it down, because at the moment it's so frustrating to me that it's like a 2 stars. And already I would have put it down, except I've now got the audiobook for Play of Shadows, which is the sequel. And I don't know if that follows Estevar or not. I don't know yet. I'll have to check into it, but I don't want to read the synopsis in case it spoils this book. So I'm going to try and read more of this, and then if the sequel to this book follows this character as well, I'm probably just going to DNF the series. I hope I don't, and I hope it grows on me. But my reading is not going as swimmingly and optimistically as I thought it would in April. After putting like 5 books down in March, I was like, I'm not going to DNF anymore in April, and it feels like I might start off the month with a DNF, which is annoying. That said, I did get an email today that Silver Under Nightfall sequel, Court of Wanderers, is in the mail to me. It is coming to me as we speak. So maybe I'm just going to end up ditching both of them and reading Court of Wanderers. Stay tuned. Oh my god, my god, my god. I got a package. Feels like I've been waiting forever. It is the Court of Wanderers. Oh my god, I'm going to start this straight away. Sorry, Crucible of Chaos and Foundry Side. This is my new current read. I really hope it doesn't let me down. It's been a few days, so I figured I would update you on what I'm actually reading, and I have been reading Court of Wanderers. I'm now over 100 pages in, and initially when I started it, I was really nervous because it seemed like it was very rapidly going through all the introductions and the events, and some of the stuff that happened at the end of Silver Under Nightfall, it seemed to kind of almost resolve and or gloss over, and I thought some of those things might lead into this book and form this cool unfurling narrative. It felt very slapdash at the beginning, but now that I'm 100 pages in, I feel a lot more settled in this, and I just love the development of Zidane. And in this book we see him already being softer and more kind, especially with a particular location they are at, and I just liked seeing that almost vulnerability and softness now that there is more trust between them and they've known each other for longer. It's just really nice to see. It's probably not going to get 5 stars given that the way everything was introduced and all of the characters were kind of thrown back at you again to almost refresh you on who is who. It was not very well done, it wasn't seamless, so that made me panic at the beginning. I was like, oh no, is this going to be bad? But now that I've settled into it, I'm enjoying it, like we're back on track again. And then also I am listening to The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo on audiobook, and kind of a similar thing. In my mind, I'd hyped this release up and it's, you know, coasting a 3 stars. I think because it's a historical fantasy and usually I don't love historical, so putting it into fantasy makes it at least palpable, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to absolutely love it. So we're following Lucia in this book, and she is a scullery maid, but she has magic and she has to hide the fact that she speaks the language of magic from the people or the powers that be. Otherwise, you know, she could be put to death for treason or for summoning demons. There's a very thin line between being spoken to by God and then being a consorting with demons person. So she's trying to very much walk that line. Of course she gets found out. And in a sense I am liking it, but a lot of the time the characters have very similar names and there is a lot of them. So sometimes something will happen and I can't quite figure out who it's happening to or with. So that's kind of bringing me out of the story a bit, but I think it's got that historical fantasy aspect to it with all of the names and all of the places happening. Usually with fantasy I'm fine, but for some reason The Familiar is not quite gelling into my brain. So I'm mostly done with that. I'm probably 70% into it actually, and so I'm looking forward to picking up a different audiobook after I finished it. I'm glad I tried it. I do like Leigh Bardugo's writing. It's very immersive and intentional, but I just don't love this spin on it. I think I'd prefer to just reread Ninth House next time. Guess what? I caught a cold, which is not ideal when you're trying to do a bunch of reading for a reading vlog, but I've not continued this as much as I thought I would. Honestly, I feel kind of disappointed, and I thought I might going into this book just because it feels like a 3 to 4 stars, more towards a 3 at the moment, and I thought this would be a fantastic new anticipated release that I would love to the moon and back like Silver Under Nightfall, and I was trying to temper my expectations, but I still kind of had that hope, you know? So reading this and seeing the almost like slapdash way that characters were introduced at the beginning and the relationships, while there is some merit to them that I am genuinely quite enjoying, it just doesn't feel as strong as book 1. And I thought that might be the case. So I'm reading it, I'm getting through it, but I'm trying to get there. It does have big text and short chapters, so I'm aiming to get it out of the way, but at the moment I just feel like I'm held back. And I think that's also partly due to the fact that I'm sick and doing anything seems like a momentous effort. So I need to chill, I think. In good news though, my friend Marie sent me an early birthday gift, and I know what it is. Like, I know what it is. It's gonna be the next volume of Fence, but I haven't opened it yet because future me wants that opening of gift serotonin, so I'm gonna hold on to this. I feel like I'm fighting against a reading slump and a reading enjoyment slump. It's hard to motivate myself to read, and it's also hard to find books that I enjoy reading, which then obviously makes motivating me hard as well. So it's kind of a circular thing with my reading, and I just need to break out of it. I thought this would do it, but it's not. I also got the audiobook at my library for The Fragile Threads of Power, but I was like, you know what? This is over a 20-hour audiobook. I do not feel like I have the capacity for it right now, and it is part of my reading my entire TBR challenge, but I'm not ready for it yet. I will be, but not yet. So I put this off for a little bit. My hold has been put off, so I'm not starting this, but I also started an audiobook called The Final Strife, and I'm about 30% into it, which means that I did finish The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. And I initially thought that this was going to be another new release, like an anticipated release, that I would give a 4 stars and quite enjoy, but I just gave it a 3. And I think that's because it is a historical fantasy, and I just tuned out a lot at the names. I didn't care about the cultural or political significance more so in this book, and it was about a scullery maid, Lucia, and she was entered with other contestants into a magical trial. That sounds on paper like something way up my alley, but because it was historical fantasy and not just fantasy like epic fantasy or heroic fantasy, it just didn't quite hit the right mark for me. It was like adjacent to that mark, and the historical aspect dragged the story down for me. Honestly, it's an enjoyable story, it's just not personally up my alley. So I think my expectations were a little bit high, but I can see why people are enjoying it. My brain is really struggling right now. Part of me just wants to open this, but maybe I can include it for the reading challenges for the Magical Readathon. I realized I didn't mention what the final strife is about. A very quick synopsis is that there are different factions separated by the color of their blood. So there are dusters which have blue blood, there are embers which have red blood, and there are also ghostings, which are almost like the unseen slave labor that use a form of signed language to communicate with each other because their limbs get taken away. Very dark world. There's also an impact of the, I think it's the Jora seed, which is like a really illicit, hard to break drug, and our main character is taking this drug. 6 years ago she was part of the Sandmasters. I might be getting that name wrong, but she was part of this group that was leading this form of rebellion against the major royal houses, and because she was bred as an ember and then secretly tried to be passed off as a duster so that she could get in under the radar, she went on a mission with this group, and a lot of this group was killed on that mission. It was just her and Jonah or John, can't remember his name either. I'm useless with names unless they're written. So because all of these characters were killed, now she's felt like she was on her own. She's taken these drugs as a coping mechanism, and she's really far into being an addict. And she's also part of this underground fighting ring, and that's where she makes her money. But she's just recently been cut off from the fighting ring. She's basically on her last stand. She's at the point where the drugs are making her teeth red, which is the final symptom before you have heart failure and die. And she decides, okay, well, I am going to climb into the window of this royal family's daughter, because they were swapped at birth by this whole like sand group thing regime. I'm really not explaining this right. I apologize. My sick brain is very, very clouded. Anyway, she goes in, switches places, she gets found by the daughter, and then they form a team, and the daughter passes her off as the new slave that she's undertaken to help with her studies. And in trade, she is teaching this daughter how to fight in combat, and then this daughter is teaching her how to write all the runes and understand the magic system in this world. And in addition to that, the daughter recognizes that she's an addict and starts giving her this tea to wean her off the drugs. So in the moment that she was probably going to die, she has her life turned around for her when she wouldn't accept help from anybody else. So it's about magic, it's about a tournament, it's about these two characters finding trust in each other. At the beginning of the book there was a lot of info dumping, but it was to the book's benefit because there is a lot of world building that's going on, and it threw in a lot of terms and names that I honestly didn't understand. So I tried starting it and then it wasn't vibing with me, and then I tried like 5 days later. I was like, no, I need to try this because it's received positive reviews. I need to give it a chance, and I'm glad I did because I'm over 30% into it and I'm enjoying myself. Although like Fragile Threads of Power, it's a 20+ hour audiobook, which is a bit of an undertaking. That's why I didn't want to take on Fragile Threads when I already had the final strife happening. So that is an overview of my reading at the moment. I realize that I've talked about the Magical Readathon in different clips, but I haven't actually said what the challenges are. So I'll try and talk about those next time if I end up addressing any of the challenges. But at the moment, my main priority is just to finish some books because I haven't been doing that. And that was the point of this vlog. I wanted to keep myself accountable, but instead I got sick. So, you know, the universe plot twisted me. I literally just finished filming that clip talking about all my reading and how I needed a bit of a circuit breaker, and I had a package from Macmillan on my doorstep, and I think I know what this is. It turns out I thought it was something else, but oh my goodness, I just got Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, which is a cozy fantasy steeped in love, apparently, about two characters who leave the royal crown as servitude and then run off together to start this, not a cafe, not a cozy bookshop or anything, but just to spend their days drinking coffee and planting plants and enjoying life together. I think it's sapphic, it's cozy, and it's just so cute looking. Oh my god, I'm so excited about it. Thank you so much to Macmillan for sending this to me. Oh my goodness, this is so cool, I'm so excited. I thought this might have been Dragon Rider by Taharan Mathu, but it's not. I would take a high epic fantasy, but also I think my brain might need this cozy fantasy, so
I am keen to read this. Ooh, I'm so excited. I would like to report that I listened to my instincts and I have put down this. I've officially DNF'd it. I read 4 more pages and I just decided that I couldn't stand Estevar. But what I did do is I checked out Play of Shadows, and this book is the, I don't want to say unnecessary prequel, but I think this functions as a standalone before you read Play of Shadows and start that series separately. So I think putting this down shouldn't impact me too much when I decide to start Play of Shadows. If I like that one, we'll see, but I got an Audible deal, so I think I got the audiobook for like $1 anyway. So if I don't like it, then it's not like I'm hugely out of pocket. Hopefully I like it because it's the start of a new series and it's also a great Coat spin-off, but that's what I thought about this one, and we know how that went. And because I talked about Play of Shadows and Crucible of Chaos, I feel like I need to mention the magical readathon. So one of the prompts was for Alchemy, which is read a book with a circle on the cover, and Crucible had several circles on the cover, and because it's a very similar design, Play of Shadows also has circles or a circle on the cover. So I'm just going to pull this out of that category and put Play of Shadows in it, and hopefully I don't fail my challenge of reading 4 books for that magical readathon during April. But stranger things have happened, like the fact that I circled right back to the book that I had started at the beginning of this vlog, which is Foundry Side. I've read like 40 more pages of this. It is hard to get through a lot of page mileage on this one because the writing is small and there's a lot of back and forth of the intricacies of the world building, so it feels like because it's information heavy, it almost bogs you down, so the pace doesn't feel as easy to get through. So I'm enjoying my foray into this again, and I'm hoping to read much more. I really want to finish this, even though it's not technically part of my magical readathon list of challenges. It's still a book that I put, I think, on my April to be read pile. It's at least part of my entire TBR challenge before July ends, so I want to finish this ASAP. And then just going back to the magical readathon, the book that I had for Elemental Studies, which is Read a Book with Light on the cover, I chose this one, and I chose like the red thread as the light because our main character can see magic, which is a thread of power. This is the first in the Threads of Power series. It was a bit of a reach to include this one on my readathon challenge, but I decided to anyway because it's on my physical TBR pile. But given that now I've got the option of the audiobook at Libby eventually when it comes in, I'm probably going to read that during May or June instead, as I said on my May and June to be read video. So I think I'll just park this for now. My reading is really just running into a lot of brick walls, but with a parking of Fragile Threads, of a DNF in Crucible of Chaos, and continuing Foundry Side, I feel like I'm somehow back on track again. I also have listened to more of my audiobook for The Final Strife, and I've got like 4 hours left and 8 days left on my library hold, so I'm anticipating I'll get through that one. At some point after I finish The Final Strife, I will read Play of Shadows, or I'll start Play of Shadows. And then my goal was just to finish books for the end of this reading vlog, and I ended up finishing Court of Wanderers, and while I did enjoy pieces of it, I ended up giving this a 3 stars out of 5, and it honestly just felt rushed. Like the political scenarios after 200 pages, it felt like they sat down to have a conversation that was very high level and, you know, involved in vampire politics, and then after that they would go and have our main cast of characters have almost the same conversation, and that happened a few times, and so it felt like it was not only rehashing old territory but then not explaining it properly so the reader didn't understand it from the get-go. There were a few moments like that across this book, in the sense that it just felt like there was a lot of build up to something and then it went very quickly. And so the plot and the pacing of this book kind of let me down, which is why I didn't keep it at a 4 stars, but the relationship of Remy, Jardin and Zidane were the key driving force to this book. And because yes, it is romantasy, so romance and fantasy mushed together, where romance is the main driving force and the fantasy plot supports all of that, I was expecting more from the fantasy element to support it, and it just felt a little bit flat for me. The romance was great. There were bits of it that I was like, oh, I thought they were going to do X and Y based on some foreshadowing, but you know, that just was a discussion that wasn't meant to continue. So yeah, it was satisfying, it was enjoyable, but it's not nearly a favourite. So I'm disappointed that my over a year of anticipating this book kind of just fizzled, but I still enjoyed the book for what it was.
but nowhere near the level that I loved Silver Under Nightfall. Then for the Magical Readathon, I've got 2 more reading prompts to fulfill for it because I hadn't actually picked books for it. So one of them was Inscription, which is to write down 3 different book titles and then pick one of them, and that's the book that you're going to read. But I'm probably just going to completely ignore the whole writing down of 3 titles, and I might end up just starting this one, which I got in the mail a few days ago because I physically wrote an email to a publisher to get this book, and I feel like that is enough for the Inscription prompt. It's completely not the prompt at all. I acknowledge that I'm very much cheating, but this also just came to my doorstep and it's a cozy fantasy that I've been really looking forward to. And the front of it has a really sweet message. For anyone who really needs a cup of tea and a nice book, take a break, you've earned it. Which is just really sweet, and it's, I think, really what I need right now. So I think this is probably going to be my next physical read after Foundry Side, during Foundry Side, I'm not sure. I'm still over 3 books behind on my 80 book reading challenge, so I'm hoping that maybe this can, you know, help me with a bit of page mileage and be read faster than Foundry Side. The last prompt for the Magical Readathon is Restoration, which is read a book that you think could cure a reading slump, and you know, this could fit in that category as well. So I'm not really sure. Maybe I could sub in Foundry Side actually, because it feels like my reading slump went on a really big tangent. DNF'd a book, finished an anticipated release that wasn't worth as much hype as I thought, and then it circled back to this. So maybe this can help cure my reading slump, because when I finish it, I anticipate I'm going to be very satisfied. But anyway, those are the prompts that I have to wrangle. That's an update on my reading as well. I'm still kind of sick, but I'm hopefully healing past it very soon, because being sick absolutely sucks. So yeah, that is my reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what your current reads are down below. I would love to know, but thank you again for watching. I'll chat to you below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.